up small, breathe me in and let me go. Feeling the lumps inside you, like an ice, make my way into your mind. Just to know what you knew. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but I'm in the dead of the night. Let the darkness take control. Let the darkness take control. Darkness take control. May the darkness take control. Take me in small, breathe me in and let me go. Sink to your heart to find you. Open up your eyes till you're blinded by the lights, so you can see what you do. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but I'm in the dead of the night. Teardrops on the floor, the pain is over, feel the darkness take control.
You too.
Welcome to the AfterTalk, the place where wrestling goes beyond the mat. Here's your host, the Glamazon Delisha.
Hey guys. Usually I would say another Monday, another pay-per-view recap, but today is not a pay-per-view recap. We are reviewing the movie about Paige's life called Fighting with My Family, and I am joined by my co-host here on AfterTalk is Nicole, or as we like to call her, Tricky Nikki.
What's up, everybody?
How's the Monday going today?
Oh man, another day in paradise. Now, I had a rough Monday with work, but other than that, I'm super stoked to be here. I love AfterTalk, and it's what got me through my day. I'm like, guys, I've got AfterTalk later. I was telling everybody and plugged ours shamelessly in my classes, and it was fantastic. So,
hey, you got the end of the day talking about wrestling, or
that's right.
A movie about wrestling, so why not?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, like I said, we're here reviewing Fighting with My Family, which was the story of Paige, or her birth name, Soraya Jade Knight. So if there's any people in the chat, Kyle, you can also let me know if they're chiming in throughout the broadcast with their thoughts as we go along here. But yeah, so the story is about Paige. She is a English-born from the UK, who comes from a wrestling family. Not as maybe as prominent or well known as sorry, I'm getting a note from Cal. Oh, okay. So he wants me to do a quick breakdown of the show. So tonight we are going to first, I'm just going to give it like a little quick synopsis of what the movie was about, and then we will move into our overall thoughts, like expectations going in, what did we feel coming out, and then some likes and dislikes, and then we'll go into some geeky wrestling nerd news, or not news, background into the actual Paige's life and her contribution to the women's revolution, because she was one of the key components of the last few years of why we're getting such a change in more women-centric wrestling. We'll get into that a little bit later. And after that, we'll do our sort of like our AfterMat AfterTalk signature now is our finishers, so to speak, which would be our high of the movie and our low of the movie, and then our overall grade. So much like we would have done with the pay-per-view. For those who are familiar with that, it's similar to that, but we're doing it for a movie instead of a WWE pay-per-view.
Yeah. This is the movie. We got it up on the screen. It's Fighting with My Family. That's the actress that plays Paige. Hold the phone. I got her name somewhere. Where's it at? Florence Puh? Is that how you say it? Florence Puh?
It's either Puh or Pugh. I'm not entirely.
Pugh. You can look it up. Anyways, it came out in the US February 22nd, 2019. In the UK, it came out a little bit later, just a couple days, on the 27th. Put out by MGM Pictures and obviously WWE Studios. Duh. It was directed by Stephen Merchant, which I didn't know. It's 108 minutes long. That's what, like an hour and 20 minutes? Something like that? Somewhere in there. It made $11 million. No, not made. That's its budget. It was budgeted $11 million. So that's like how much they had to make the whole film. And then it made, so its profit was $26.7 million, and its Rotten Tomatoes is 92%, which is actually, that's good, right?
Yes.
That's a good rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I never know. So they got a good rating. It was, yeah. So there you go. Now you can do the thing. Do the synopsis.
Yes. A little asterisk on Rotten Tomatoes, just in case people get confused. Going a little nerdy here. It doesn't mean that was the overall grade of the movie. Like if we saw 92%, it's got an A grade. It actually means that of all the reviews from the critics, 92% like the film. So that can be anywhere between like a C and above. I forgot to write down like the actual like critic score, but I feel like it was probably like a 3 or 4 out of 5. Most likely. It's probably what it was, especially if it has like that 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. So we start off in the film with childhood Paige and her brother Zach, who is played by excuse me, Jack Loudon, L-O-D-E-N. Someone, I don't do well pronunciations, so
I would say Loudon.
Yeah, so please forgive me, guys. And sometimes because I think a lot of them are like British actors, it might be pronounced just slightly different than what we would do over here in the U.S. But we start off, as you saw in the trailers of Zach. He was watching one of the pay-per-views. I think it was King of the Ring. I don't remember which year that was. And then I'm just, for the sake of argument, I'm just going to call her Paige. I'm going to forget to call her Soraya, her actual name, but because I'm so used to calling her Paige. So just know that we're talking about Paige. I guess, well, you probably knew that from clicking on this video. And she wants to watch something else, as siblings do. Usually don't agree on much, especially when it comes to television shows. She wanted to watch Charmed. And so they're wrestling with the remote, and Zach puts her in chokehold. And as we saw from the trailers, Dad comes in and asks him, like, what are you doing? And if you're not familiar with the family or the film, you're thinking, oh, he's going to punish his kids for fighting, roughhousing, and putting a chokehold on his younger sister. No, he shows her how to do a chokehold correctly because they are wrestlers. So, of course, you got to be safe. None of this, don't try this at home, going on in this household. So we do a little fast forward into the little bit of the background of the family and I forget the name of their wrestling school. It's like not coming to me. I feel like it was like AAW, not to be confused with AEW. Just saying. And we see them like going through the ring. I don't remember what the dad's wrestling name was, but he was played by Nick Frost, and his name was Ricky Knight. And I believe one of their wrestlers either quit or just couldn't show up. So they asked Paige to fill in, but she didn't really want to because she wasn't really into wrestling at that age. I think around this age she may have been maybe around 11 or 12 maybe, or somewhere in that preteen range. So she's not really concerned about wrestling. She's concerned about what her own likes and things, which included Charm. And well, we didn't really get into what else she liked, but we know she liked Charmed a lot, and we'll get into a little bit past that as well, a little bit, because it kind of features into who her name later on. So she fills in and she's doing a good job, and I think she's starting to get that bug. We don't see it quite yet, but she's starting to get that bug in the back of her subconscious of, I think I actually kind of like this. And then we go on later on. You see Zach. He helps his dad at the school, training other children in the neighborhood and adults too. But I think he focuses more on the kids his age and a little bit younger and a little bit older.
And he goes, picks him up in the van. I thought that was like a really nice touch.
Yeah.
Like, not only do they train these kids, but then it's like, oh, by the way, everybody get in the van. I don't know. I really liked that. I thought that was a nice little touch.
Yeah, we don't have Tom here, so we don't know exactly what kind of vehicle that was. He could probably tell us the make, model, year, and all that jazz. But yeah, he picks everyone. I don't know why I almost thought Volkswagen van, but it wasn't that type one. But yeah, he picks everyone up in the van. It's kind of like if you an after school program, but you're training for wrestling. And then so we see a little insight to that every back and forth every day, picking up these kids. I want to say in the evening time. We don't really know when these kids are going to the school. And we see later on that there is a promotion for WWE SmackDown coming into the O2 arena in the UK, and they were going to be holding some tryouts. And so, of course, by this time, I believe Paige, she's fully immersed in the wrestling school with their parents. I as we'll see later on, she's not quite got a heart in it yet, but she likes doing it to be with her family. And of course, this is a family business, so this is how they make money. So everyone's got to be involved some way or somehow. So they do go to the tryouts, and they do pretty well. They ask Paige's name. First, it says she didn't go with Soraya because, of course, that's her mom's wrestling name. So they asked her to pick one, and at first she says Brittany, but the guy played by Vince Vaughn, Hutch Morgan, who's we'll talk about later, where he's playing a conglomeration of a couple different characters,
right?
From the NXT developmental area, or at the time, it might have been still OVW, but I think they just went with NXT for the namesake.
Yeah, nobody knows the other one.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about FCW. That's why it died.
Oh, that's what it was. FCW. I think FCW was before that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a video about the long line of developmental training going. No, we won't do that.
We don't want to bore you guys to death. Anyways, I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, so they go try out. She's been thinking about a name for the past however long it was till they get to the tryouts, and she goes with one of her characters from Charmed, Paige. And I didn't even know that's where her name came from. I never even thought about it because it's such a common name that for the longest time I thought her name was actually Paige and not Soraya.
I thought it was great that even Vince Vaughn was like Vince Vaughn's character was like Paige. That's it. That's timid girl from Britain named Paige. And I was like, oh.
So yeah, and then through the tryouts, they're going through all the motions of wrestling moves to see what they got and how far along they have and how much development they may or may not need, and he's taking notes. And then he goes and asks everyone, why do you want to be here? Why do you want to be a wrestler? I only remember Paige's and Zach's response. Zach was, he's been in this business his whole life. His whole family is wrestlers, and this is what he's wanted to do since he was a young kid. And at first, Paige, I think she says something along the same lines, and then
she says, "I wrestle because my family wrestles."
Right. So
because that's what my family does. And Vince Vaughn's like, "Yeah, but why are you here?" And she's like, I just told you because my family wrestles."
Yeah, typical response for someone who's like, "Oh, I've been doing this my whole life, and because my family told me to get in the ring one day." But then I guess after keep pushing and pushing, finally, I guess she finally realized he wants a deeper answer, and it's mainly because she wants to find a place where she belongs. As some people might know, she's kind of been like ostracized throughout her whole life. She's this pale, dark-skinned girl, and as when we're all, as all of us would know, we're going through that age of either prepubescent and puberty, hormones are going everywhere. You don't feel like you're still trying to learn who you are as a person, and thrown into that, she's trying to get into this multi-billion-dollar company all the way across the world. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in and think of something on the spot of why do you want this position that thousands, if not millions of people think about wanting to try out for every day and not getting their shot. So at the end of the class, Paige winds up that she does get through. She's the only one who gets through, not her brother. Of course, as we learned, who's wanted this his whole life. So in the back of your mind, if you know movies, if you know story writing, of course it's going to cause some conflict. But at first, we don't really see it. He seems genuinely happy for her. And so she goes on her way to the performance center in Florida. And then, actually, I forgot to mention, and I mean, so we'll get to it late, in our more in-depth breakdown, that Zach also had a girlfriend with the baby on the way. So getting into WWE, into the performance center, would have been not only his heart's desired dream, but a better income in life for his future wife at the time of him not getting through, and the future baby on the way. So we get to the performance center, to where it really does go somewhat quite into depth of what it takes to train versus basic cardio and strength training, beyond knowing how to take a bump, how to throw a punch, how to sell a punch, and then the basic in-ring techniques as far as running ropes or taking bumps, which if some people didn't know, you don't just go into the performance center and just take a bump off the top rope. There are like inflated mats that you first learn how to execute that move safely before you even touching the actual ring. So I thought that was a pretty neat detail, and also to show that these people are legit athletes. It's not, yes, it's a scripted television show, but these people are legit athletes where a mistake can cost you not even just your career or an injury or sideline, it can cost you your life. True. So I really do think,
which has happened before. Like, there are wrestlers that have died in the ring because of mishaps. But you know what? I also wanted to touch on the fact that when she goes, not only does it show you that these people are athletes, but it also shows that they practice like their ring announcing and stuff like that, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know why I didn't think about, like, I thought they all just probably stood in front of the mirror and like acted. You know, they were like, ooh, this is who I am and blah, blah, blah. But they actually do it in front of each other and kind of like, you know, there's this really great moment when Vince Vaughn is like throwing out like, you know, trying to discredit her, and she keeps doing comebacks. And I thought that was really great because you don't think about how they like practice to perform as well as, you know, the athletic side of it.
Yeah, and I think that the NXT Performance Center is probably one of, well, I can't say I haven't seen every single developmental program going into, but I feel like NXT probably is going to best prepare you for that main stage, because they have really recreated every aspect of being a sports entertainer in the wrestling business, to where there's a ramp, there's Titantrons or of some sort behind you, and of course an actual ring. And then with the NXT actual live production, it's in at Full Sail University, so you have the seating. You can kind of see like where people will be sat. So as you progress through your like promotion class and your interests, you can stand at that ring and get an idea of like camera angles and things like that. So I really think that they really, like I said, they really did a good job of showing what it takes to get you to that main stage. And then, even though unfortunately not everyone's gonna make it, again, timeline-wise, the movie doesn't really tell you how long they're doing training and stuff, but you do see Vince Vaughn's character saying, you know, look to your left, look to your right. They're probably not going to be here at the end of this and since the word, it is another tryout, the next step in their tryouts. So we see in Paige progress and progress. She's realizing it's a lot of hard work. Like we said, these are people who are legit athletes. And for her, again, like I said, being that teenager, she's probably one of the youngest one there. One, she's far from home, thousands of miles away from her family, and she doesn't feel like she quite fit in. Again, dark hair, nose piercings. I'm not sure if she had tattoos at this time. Probably. And
I mean, she was like a tiny little punk rocker in the age of bikini models.
Yeah.
You know, like blonde hair, busty. And I mean, like, it's all of a sudden you have this girl who's coming in who doesn't look the part, but she knows how to wrestle. And so it's like, yeah, it's a balancing act. I thought that was really cool that they showed that. Not that there's anything against being a model turned wrestler. I'm just saying we get to see, you know, like a new age of that happening.
Yeah, we've seen that work in the good and the bad. I mean, Trish Stratus and was probably the most prime example of a sports model. And I don't know if she's done weightlifting competitions, but bikini competitions, to one of the most recognized women wrestlers ever. So it has its checks and balances. And then we do see some more conflict with other of the other girls there who are cheerleaders, bikini models, bodybuilders, or they probably use a different term, but for the sense of the word, bodybuilders. I will say I was trying to contrive who they were portraying, because as later on in the movie,
I was too.
Yeah, later on in the movie, I was trying to see who they were based off their gear, and there's one, I think the taller blonde, I think, I forget which. I think she was the one who was the gymnast or whatever. She kind of had gear to look kind of like Charlotte, so I was guessing maybe that was one. And then there was another one who kind of had, maybe Kyle later on could chime in if I'm correct or not. It looked like she had some of Alexa Bliss's gear. Looked like the all blue back in her like fairy days when she first debuted. So I don't know. People in the comments, let me know who you thought they were portraying. It was 3 main girls. One of them did not have an Irish accent, so I don't think Becky Lynch was being portrayed. Or maybe she would have got on because they are common, UK folk will have something in common. But we see her going through the ups and downs of trying to fit in with those type of girls who she feels ostracized by, and also trying to compete in this tough environment. And we see her have a breakdown during one of the obstacle course training sessions on the beach, where she cannot get through the course because it's so hard, it's so tough, and there's also some mental aspects going on subconsciously that she's not wanting to deal with. But then as throughout her training sessions, we do go back overseas to focus on her brother, who is still training these kids and getting ready for his upcoming birth of child. One of having a little baby boy, and having to deal with his mental aspect of not being picked for something he wants to do his whole life, but he's still wrestling on the British independent scene, also trying to make some money and some sort of income to provide for his family. And you really start to see it take its toll as they go through a not cutscene, but a run through of him, his daily routine of picking up these kids, training, trying to look after his girlfriend. I'm not sure if she was his wife at the time, but I'll just go with wife just to.
No, I think they was still girlfriend. They weren't married yet.
Okay, and you see him starting to drink a lot, so you're like, oh, I think I know where this is going, until we come up to what is, I believe it's Christmas break. It's kind of hard because Paiges is in Florida, so there's no snow to let me know. No, I'm just kidding. So we get to the Christmas break where she gets to go home for a little bit, and Vince Vaughn's character tells her, you really need to think about this, if this is the path you want to take.
Well, he actually tells her to stay home.
Oh, yeah.
She was having such a hard time that he's like, you enjoy fighting with your family. You need to go do that. Like, you love wrestling and wrestling with them. That's where you need to be. You need to go home. You need to stay home. This obviously isn't for you. And that's exactly what he does. He tells her, you know what, just stay there. And she fully intends to. She was like, yeah, I'm going to stay home. And anyways, I interrupted again. Go ahead.
Oh, no. That's fine. Chime in because I may miss some things that you, again, check. To where she does, like I say, she gets home and to where her father has booked her in a match against her brother as a big selling ticket because everyone around in the community knows she's trying out for WWE to make it onto TV and bring the family some glory. To which she does have a conversation with Zach saying, hey, I don't want to do this. I think I'm just going to stay home. And he says, okay, you tell mom and dad, it's fine. But you can see in his facial expression, he's not happy. Again, this is something that he's wanted for his whole life and he didn't get picked. She did. So it's like, why are you giving up this opportunity? So, his dad and mom put them off in the ring so they could for the match. They're the main event, and Zach is supposed to take the pin or take the fall to put her over. For those who aren't familiar with the wrestling term, it's to showcase another talent and put them over to give them the win, so that the fans could cheer for them and get a look at how they work out and stuff. He doesn't do that. He goes off script, as they would say, and does. I believe he gives her a power slam, like for real, where it would hurt. I mean, I don't know from experience, but I feel like it would hurt. And then he takes the pin. I mean, he gives her the pin and then just storms off. And so, of course, Dad's like, "What the hell is that?"
The hill won. Ah.
Yeah, I was not going to try to do an English accent. I would probably offend someone. Yeah, and he goes, talk to her. She's the one who wants to leave and give up this opportunity, which creates some really bad strife between everyone because they're like, what are you doing? This was your dream. And she's like, well, this is really you guys' dream. Like, it's hard. It's not as easy as it seems to be. And so we get some more strife with Zach. He's drinking more. He's getting himself into fights. And then we get a call from his girlfriend that he didn't even come home that night. Of course, one with a baby, like, where's my boyfriend? Where's any help or whatever? Or just any if he didn't come home in general, we quite worried. So they find him at this bar where he was getting into a fight. Probably either would have wound up in jail or I don't know, could have been dead or something, like, because the English have the reputation of being strong-willed and knowing how to fight. So who knows what would happen if his dad did not come and interfere. And actually, speaking of jail, this is something I didn't know, because that Paige and her brother, they had an older half brother who was also a wrestler, and I think he was getting pretty far along. It probably could have made it to WWE at the time, but he got into some trouble. I can't remember if it was drugs or alcohol or a robbery or something like that.
He tried out for the WWE in the same way that her brother in the movie did. I think the guy who went to prison, his name was Rob or something, but he didn't make it. And it sent him down a path of self-medicating to ease the pain of not being good enough for the WWE. And he ended up getting into a bar fight and nearly killing a guy. So he went to prison. And that's kind of what they're trying to, like, they say that really early on in the film. And then they're like foreshadowing what's about to happen with the other brother. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's good, because I couldn't quite remember what happened.
It's been like 2 weeks since I've seen the film, but like I kind of remember that part.
Same. But it, like Nikki was saying, is really the parallel to what could have happened if his dad did not interfere with him at that bar with Zach. He could have been going right along that path. And actually, Lena Headey character, who's playing the mom, points that out, and she was like, we are going to lose our children if we don't actually physically talk to them about what's going on. So we see the dad talk to Paige and said, hey, if you don't want to go back, that's fine, we'll support you, instead of what he originally was saying. He was going to put her, I think he said he was going to put her on the plane himself if she didn't go. So I feel like that was a good, like, family moment, going against, as a parent, going against your own wishes to support your daughter and what she wanted. But as we know, that doesn't happen. She does go back on that plane. And she does go back to the performance center, and excuse me, and she continues to work hard, and she does keep competing, getting better, getting her strength up, getting her cardio up to complete the obstacles that they're getting put through. And now she's starting to get along with the girls because she realized that she was kind of holding herself back from either being approachable or approaching the other women to try to make friends. And we can talk. We might talk about some of the things that she went through during that aspect a little bit later as well. Part about likes and dislikes. And then so she is, as Nikki mentioned, the best wrestler there, or female wrestler for sure, because she's had all this practice. So instead of resenting the other girls for not having that experience, she goes in and starts to work with them after class, before class, and during the training sessions to get better, so that they all get better. It was also like a nice message of, you don't have to put other women down, help them all for you all to build up, even though in a way it is a competition, because not everyone may or may not make it, but for the meantime, you're forming a sisterhood, and to make it to the main roster, or just even stay in the performance center to the NXT roster to get a paycheck and make a somewhat decent living. And they kind of gloss over the NXT portion of her career, but you see like one house show match or whatever, or whatever match for NXT proper, not just at the performance center. And then you do see her get the call up she gets the call up, of course, we all know from, like, that's Vince's decision, but in the movie we see it with The Rock at a taping at WrestleMania, at the live WrestleMania. I don't remember which one that was, because I don't even know which one we're on now coming up. I never know what the numbers are. But she and also Vince Vaughn's Hutch Morgan's character, they were with The Rock, and he lets her know she's going up to Raw the next day to debut on the main roster. And then the movie sort of tails in with that to her interrupting AJ Lee, played by Zelina Vega, or as we looked up her actual name, Thea Trinidad, playing AJ Lee after AJ went through I believe it was either a gauntlet match or just a 13 women type of match. I don't remember, because a lot of that era I kind of blocked out of my memory for certain reasons, which we'll also probably talk about later. So she's doing her promo, or AJ Lee things. She was one of the best on the mic, I'll give her that. And then she gets interrupted by Paige, and in the movie version, Paige sort of like pauses because she's sort of like not starstruck, but caught in the cameras of being on live television. And then so her family's watching back home, and so she seems to be frozen, and then you see her be slapped by AJ, and then they have a match, and then we have that infamous Paige Turner, to which Paige wins the WWE women's title, or the Divas Championship, sorry, at the time. I got so used to our recent WWE Women's title. She wins the Divas Championship, becoming the youngest, I don't know if she's the youngest champion, but she's the youngest female champion, and also the first, maybe only, double belted champion at the time of NXT Women's Champion and Diva Champion. Although in the movie she was not NXT Women's Champion, so we'll talk about that.
But they glossed all over her entire NXT career. But she was the youngest Divas champion in history, the first diva to win a title in her debut match, and the only woman to hold both the Diva and the NXT Women's Championship at the same time.
But yeah,
just to clarify for you there.
No, thanks. But
I'm not a fangirl. Get out of here.
But that was like sort of a somewhat synopsis of the film. I really do suggest you go see it if you haven't. If you haven't, why are you here? Because I should have said at the beginning, spoilers for Paige's life. But yeah, I really think it's a film worth watching. Whether you catch it while still in theaters, I'm pretty sure it's still in some theaters around the nation here, or overseas if that's where you are. or catch it once it come out on DVD or streaming, because I really do think it's worth it. It's pretty short, like you mentioned, 108 minutes, so you can knock it out on the Friday afternoon, Friday evening, or what have you. And we we were mentioning earlier in our group chat that this is probably the best of the WWE studios that they put out, even though that's not saying
Lies,
much.
the Scorpion King.
But yeah, we did a little digging, and because I thought that this was probably the highest grossing one at 26 million, but Cal so graciously looked up and that was not the case. It was the Scorpion King at what was it, Cal? 400 million? 4 million? I think he's muted himself. Something of that note. But we did our research. This one is the most critically acclaimed WWE film.
128 million.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Because Fighting with Family is a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, like we mentioned earlier, and The Scorpion King was 41. Although that is a guilty pleasure of mine, I am a big rock fan. Cal's probably a bigger rock fan than me, of course, but
I'm sorry, we're all the same age. Who isn't a rock fan that grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s? Like, who? Name one person. They don't exist.
If you didn't like him, you're a hater. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
That's right.
You can like,
he was
you can
basically
like who you like.
pre-John Cena.
But yeah, I did enjoy some of those earlier movies like The Scorpion King, and I actually didn't mind The Condemned with Stone Cold. Anyway.
We digress.
Yeah. So, what were your sort of like overall likes and dislikes of the film? Like, what were you expecting before you went to go see it, or maybe even before you even saw the trailer?
You know what? I didn't even hear about the film until I want to say like I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, wait, what? They're coming out with a movie about Paige's life, and I thought that was super cool. Going into it, even like with the trailer, I expected it to be exactly what it was. So I was pleased. I thought it was a good time. I'm not a huge movie critic, so like I'm probably the wrong person to ask about like, breaking down movies and stuff, because for the most part, a movie's job is to entertain me, and I was indeed entertained. So like, I mean, who wouldn't be with a story that's about overcoming obstacles? It has a strong female lead. It's about one of my favorite wrestlers. It's about wrestling. Like, of course I was going to like it. But I did take my mom, who doesn't know really anything about wrestling other than being around me. She did know who Paige was because we watched Total Divas together because like, that's mom-daughter bonding time, wrestling for me, reality TV for her. And you know what? She really, really liked it. And I was very surprised. To be honest, I didn't expect her to like it as much as she did. And like, she even wanted to like talk wrestling with me afterwards. It was just like this really great moment, you guys.
Yeah, I kind of had the same feeling. Actually, beforehand, when it was first announced, when I first heard Disney Studios, I was like, "Oh gosh, no!" And then I heard The Rock's production company, $7 was producing. I was like, "Okay, all right, you put me back on board." And then you add in Stephen Merchant, who I've been told is like really good. He's a really good actor, and he's one of the either co-writers or a big writer on The Office, which I haven't never watched, but I keep hearing people who do love it watch a lot. So I felt that they were getting some of the right people in place to try to make this a good movie. And then I will say that very first trailer didn't really sell me on it. I thought it was going to be a little wacky and maybe a little cheesy. But as I watched like the second trailer and some of the early reviews from Sundance were coming out, I was like, oh, okay, this might actually be worth it to go see in theaters and not just wait for it to come out on Blu-ray. I almost said DVD, and then I realized that's not cool anymore.
Old.
I know. Right? But overall, I really did enjoy the film. Like you said, it did its job of entertaining me, even me knowing most of her backstory as on the wrestling side, not much on the family side. And as you were also mentioning before, non-wrestling fans have really taken to this film. And there was a family sitting next to me, my boyfriend Joe, in the theater, and I think it's when I think Paige gets picked and her brother doesn't. They're like, oh no. And then there was just like a couple moments that I knew were going to happen, but but they didn't. And it was really cool to almost live
totally fun.
Live vicariously through them.
Like my mom did the same thing. She was like, "What? Her brother doesn't make it?" I'm like, "No, mom, he does. He's not in the main role. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, so that was a really cool experience. That I wasn't in a theater just full of like wrestling marks. It was a mixture of what we just call like the general population and wrestling population and who loved the movie. And I really thought that that was a really big deal. I think crossover is why a lot of these like some like low budget movies or lower budget movies will get traction, because it's not just for a specific audience. It's when you have that crossover appeal to everyone, it just makes for a better theater going experience, and for a better film to even get the word of mouth to keep going on in theaters. But what was some of your dislikes going on in when you watched?
I had a couple of dislikes, and I totally understand the reasoning behind them making Paige like an underdog. Like, I'm sure that she was, okay? She was young. She didn't really fit the criteria, but I really disliked like the whole rivalry thing that she had with the other girls. Like, it's okay to have healthy competition, but we don't need like women hating on other women, especially on the big screen, especially with girls that are going to see this. Like, I'm sorry, but we're just past that era. Okay. That's not healthy competition, hating each other because, you're just boobs and ass or whatever. And I was like really not okay with that. And that even comes up in the film. Like, she literally says something along the lines of, "I'm a real wrestler and all you guys are like boobs and ass." And I was like, I really hated that. And that might have really happened. I don't know. But I just didn't, I felt like that was not necessary. From somebody who was watching it, it really came across that a lot of it was probably in Paige's head. Like, that she thought because she looked different, because she acted different, because she was British or young or whatever it was, or because she wasn't a model, that she was automatically different from them. And so like for me, it could have been left at that. Like that it was primarily up here. And then maybe she addressed it and the girls are like, "What are you talking about?" Which does happen. But I really disliked that about the film. I disliked the pace of the film. Like, there were a lot of times in the movie that I was kind of like, I am no longer entertained, which is kind of weird because it's only like an hour and 20 minutes or something. Like, I should be entertained for the whole thing. I can sit through a 3-hour movie and be entertained. And there were just like some parts with her brother that I was like, I get it. You're mirroring the other brother. Like, get to the point. The point is that he is depressed and he is self-medicating. Like, move on. I want to learn more about Paige. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds terrible, and I'm not hating on the fact that they focused a lot of time on her brother, because I think it's a really great story, but I felt like there was almost too much time focused on him when it is supposed to be about her. And I think that really, that was one of my dislikes. I didn't like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, like you said, they did bring that up about her and the other girls, like on that bus scene when she thinks they're talking about her, but I guess they said they weren't, so they weren't.
But that's the thing is like that is building up, like there's like a whole, I don't know, 30 minutes where you are absolutely convinced, because it is all told from Paige's perspective, that like these girls are obviously talking about her, but like that's in her head. Like, she doesn't know that they're talking about her.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they do rush through that, but I do like that line when the girl was like, "You didn't even try to get to know us."
Right.
Oh, because she was talking they were actually talking about her
daughter.
I was just gonna say child. I think who was sick or something like that, or either that or she just missed her. Which again, they didn't really touch on this a lot, but you are away from your family, even at developmental, for long periods of time. You may not be on the road like some of the main roster. What is it, like 260 days out of the year, but you are still away from your family if they don't live in Florida. So I did like that they did throw that in, like you never even got to know us, you know who we are, you just judged us based off.
You judged us. And like, yeah. I thought that was a really good point, because it's so clear that she thinks they're judging her. And then they're like, "You judged us before you got to know us." But like, again, I don't like that even had to be in the film. Like, that was unnecessary for me as far as I'm concerned. Like I didn't like that was in the film, but that's because I'm really tired of men writing films and being like, this is all women do is like pull their hair and like hate on each other. And I'm like, believe it or not, we could support each other and love each other. That's a real thing.
That's true. That is true. I mean, they didn't go deep into that type of sisterhood, but I do think that they tried to showcase that later on in the film for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, like the whole 2 minutes at the end. And I'm like, seriously? Like, that's the story you should have told. But I don't want to talk about it. See, I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, my dislike is not like a deep dislike, but I did dislike that they glossed over her time in NXT on the live. Were they live yet? I'm not sure if they were live yet, but the NXT tapings, and because that is really where she kind of took the reins of the start of the women's revolution or what have you. Is where I mean, as with a lot of NXT talent, is where she developed her character. I mean, she called herself the anti-diva. She kind of took that prejudice she had of the model diva profile that WWE had been plastering on our televisions for the last, at this time, 20 years. And she took that and be like, no, I am not that. She kind of, in a way, reminded me of Lita, who didn't like fit into that bikini model mold, but she carved a name on herself based on her talent. Not to say that the others didn't, but that's the kind of character like she portrayed. Like, I can run with the girls and I can run with the boys. And Paige having that hardened, like British, striking background. Like when she was in NXT, she developed that anti-diva persona, and I'm going to wrestle you, not just bitch slap you into for a 2-second pin. So I didn't really like that they gloss over that, because that is, again, what made her so prominent on the main roster. But I had to take my wrestling cap off and put on just my movie going hat. And I realized, probably for story's sake and what the story they wanted to tell, was just this girl getting to her WWE claim to fame dream at the to get to that roster. And I did dislike that they misconstrued. Well, I guess because of the non NXT involvement, they really couldn't do her debut the same way, because it wouldn't have made sense.
Sure.
But yeah, but like I said,
I mean, like, the thing is that in the film, they made it very, very clear that, like, you know, I mean, they don't have time to do that. Like, they wanted her to be like, oh, boom, she debuts on Raw, she gets the belt just straight out of NXT. But, like, she had a huge following, like, at NXT long before she debuted on Raw. And then, like, when she debuted on Raw, like, let's be real, the WWE is too shrewd to ever give a rookie the title, okay? So, like, that's not something that would ever really happen.
Unless you're Ronda Rousey. Sorry.
Yeah, unless you, well, she already had a name. She doesn't count. Like,
I'm just throwing in that dig. Sorry.
You're right.
That was petty. That was petty.
I'm
sorry, guys.
It's not petty. Fucking Ronda Rousey. But I mean, like, you know, I get it. It makes sense for the movie, because, like, they're like, here's this underdog, here's the underdog, and, like, everything that she goes through makes her an underdog. And then it's like, ooh, let's show that she gets the Divas Championship belt. It just makes it that much more of an underdog story. But I am getting ahead, because that is the real Paige versus movie Paige, and I apologize.
Yeah, no, but like I said, I had to take off my wrestling cap, just put on the movie one, and just sit there and enjoy it. Cal, what was some of your like overall thoughts and likes and dislikes?
Hello, I'm here.
Look at that handsome face.
So yeah, you guys are talking about how you guys came across this movie, and for me, actually, I saw a YouTube video of The Rock backstage trying to rile up the crowd, I guess it was, saying, hey, we're making a movie about Paige and all that. And he actually announced it after, I think it was a Raw or a SmackDown. It was after some event. And he goes, I want you guys to get your reaction. Imagine, like, you seeing, like, a huge pop. Give me a huge pop. Give me a boo. And that's how they actually recorded the scenes for, like, the pops and the boos during the Raw segment and all that, was from that scene with The Rock, like, in real life. And also, I think I watched it because it said Rock calling CM Punk. That's why I watched it, because he actually called CM Punk during that segment after Raw, saying, we're making a movie, we're actually filming the scene with your wife right now, or whatever, and stuff like that. But yeah, so that was how I got into the movie. I was going in thinking like any other WWE movie, it wasn't gonna be that great. But I'm like a huge Paige fan. So I was like, I want to see it. And obviously I love The Rock. You guys all know that. I love The Rock. So I'm like, if he's part of it too, that one scene in the trailer, like when he's calling one like the Harry Potter rejects or whatever, like that just caught me. I'm like, this movie's gonna be great. Like, it was just hilarious. And like I even told like my friend actually who doesn't like wrestling at all. Never like I don't think he's ever watched day of wrestling in his life, but he knows The Rock from movies and such. But he saw that scene and he was like, oh, I gotta see this movie now. Like it looks funny and like, you know, it's about wrestling, but I'll still go see it. So yeah, I mean, overall for like my likes, I did like, you know, the story of Paige and stuff. I think Florence Pugh did a good job. The Rock was, you know, obviously good in it, but I don't want to take the shine away from, you know, what the movie's really about. Like and I like how they do that. The Rock was very sporadic through the movie and not like he was, you know, he hit his points as The Rock in those scenes, but he wasn't like scattered throughout the movie that like they needed The Rock to keep this movie afloat. I think the entire cast did a phenomenal job portraying the family and such, and the strife of the family and the turmoil between the brother, the sister Paige, and her brother Zach. It was great all throughout. You know, my one dislike would I think Delisha and I have been doing AfterMat way too long that we always have like the same high points, low points. But like my one dislike about it was also the NXT. Like I didn't really watch NXT, and Delisha knows this. Like she'll tell me when to watch something, and I'll go back and watch it because she usually tells me to watch it. But like when she debuted, I had no idea who she was, and like. Apparently she had a huge following, like you guys said, on NXT. So I kind of wish they focused a lot more on that, as opposed to like, you know, the little training sessions they had. Maybe some more of a time on NXT. So maybe that would have been, you know, I don't know, better. But
yeah,
that's what
that
I
would have been
about
time
that.
well spent for sure. I agree.
Yeah, well, actually, speaking
instead of having some of the scenes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of The Rock, he might have been, besides the NXT crossover, one of the biggest disparities between the real Paige's life in WWE and the movie. Because I was listening to an interview with her, I think a week or two before it debuted worldwide in theaters, that she had never met The Rock until I think she was well on her way on the main roster already. I mean, she had, of course, knew him. And I think she had like preliminary conversations with him. I think like via email when he wanted to do the movie and stuff like that. But as far as physically meeting him, I pretty sure she said she didn't meet him until she was well on her way onto the main roster. So the scenes about her and Zach meeting him as a kid at the SmackDown tryout, before the SmackDown tryouts, was, you know, for the movie going experience. And as we said, it was to bring that crossover appeal. I mean, because there wasn't many like big names besides Vince Vaughn and The Rock and maybe Lena Headey as well. At least on maybe here on the US, maybe they might be well known on the UK end. But for that cultural appeal, you put in The Rock's first, especially with him being heavily favored in the trailers. It was to, you know, get that audience in. So I thought that was smart on their part to feature him a lot in the trailers, but to use him sporadically in the film. And again, as we know, when you're getting called up to the main roster, it's usually not done by anyone else on the main roster, especially someone of The Rock's caliber, unless maybe you were like the Usos or Nia Jax, so that's like his actual family. Usually it's Vince, or it's the person in charge of talent relations, or I forget his title. I only know who he is by face from watching Total Divas. But it's usually him who would tell you, okay, hey, you're gonna get the call up, this is how it's gonna go, and things like that. So I feel like that was probably one of the biggest disparities, like you said, the NXT gloss over and her main roster debut, and then the stuff with The Rock. Did I miss anything about that, Nikki or Cal?
No.
Just probably also like the segment on Raw. I think she did actually talk a little bit before she, like, they show her freeze because there was a callback to earlier in the NXT segment that she had where she froze also on the mic.
Oh,
but actually,
yeah.
I think I watched back the Raw segment. Like, she actually spoke before she fought AJ, and then she did their whole promo after again.
Yeah, well, but again, they had to mash up her NXT stuff with the main roster. I love NXT. If you don't watch NXT, you totally should. It's great. It's where all the real talent is, and then they get to the main roster and get lazy.
Well, they don't get lazy.
Or glossed over.
Or
the writing is
glossed over.
lazy,
Yeah, they're
okay.
like, you're great.
Yeah.
Come on up. Never mind. We're never going to use you. And I'm like, I wish you just put them back at NXT so I could watch Ember Moon wrestle.
Well, she's injured, so hopefully post WrestleMania she'll be back.
Sorry, I took a dig again.
Yeah. Yeah. But we talked earlier about Paige being a one of the key figures as the new wave of female talent, and the ultimately what WWE was dubbing the women's revolution. As even as we said, I think we talked about it more in depth on our evolution recap and in depth on there, so you can check that out.
Yeah, our first episode of After Talk. Go look at it. Cal,
Yeah,
put it
where
up
we
on the
go-
screen somewhere in later. Put it in the description below. That's what you do. I got it.
But yeah,
I'll add it in post. I'll add it in post production as the fan pops
There
up
you
at the end
go.
of the video.
Yes.
But yeah, speaking of previous videos, last week or 2 weeks ago, might have been 300 years ago, we had the pay-per-view Fastlane, where we did a recap of that. But we also are doing a promotion/contest for all you viewers out there. We are going to give you a chance to present one of the awards on the AfterMat Awards coming up. I believe a week or two after WrestleMania, because that is our season finale, the WrestleMania recap, and then we will do our award show, which I also look forward to, because we get to talk. Well, one, we get to talk more about wrestling, and two, we get to highlight some of our favorite things that happen now through our season, which is WrestleMania to the next WrestleMania. So what we do is we have a keyword or phrase that you will put together at the end of our season. And on the Fastlane video, we gave you the first of those keywords. And then tonight, we're going to give you the second one.
All right. So thanks, Alicia. Like she said, there's going to be 3 keywords. First one was given at Fastlane. Second one's coming right now. And the last one will be at the WrestleMania recap on April 8th, I think it is, on AfterMat. So keyword number 2, make sure you guys write this down. And then I'll give you the final keyword on WrestleMania and the rules on how to enter the contest. So remember, once again, if you're willing to come on the show on video and announce an award, please copy the second word down. First word was at Fastlane recap. Here's keyword number 2. Success. The word is success. All right. Thank you for that. Back to you.
Every time you say that keyword, I keep getting reminded of like Sesame Street. The word of the day is. Anyway, so going back to Paige's importance, it really, like we said, came from her NXT come up to where she was down there with the likes of Emma, and I believe on the tail end of that, she was going out with like Charlotte and Becky and Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks, and it's really like those waves of women down in NXT who showcased that women are just as good, even though a lot of us knew that already, but to really get the WWE's attention that the women want to be seen in more than just 3-minute pillow fight matches.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and like that's what made Paige so important, because we talked about how she had a huge NXT following, and the reason why is because Paige was different. She had something that was different, but it's kind of like every person who ever felt like maybe they didn't really belong, like Paige made you feel like you had a wrestler that represented you there. And that was really important, and people fell in love with it, and that made her one of the biggest reasons for the women's revolution, because fans loved her. And more than that, they loved her as much, if not more, than their male counterparts, right? The male superstars. And it got the WWE's attention. And it's like they finally realized that women were interested in wrestling, that women wanted to be represented here, and that this was an untapped market. Because let's be real, it's all about, making that money. And all of a sudden, it's like Paige kind of made it to where they went, maybe we shouldn't just have them as a sideshow. Maybe we should actually have them as like a main thing. And then you put all of that, together with Paige working with Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, and, then feuding with the biggest names in women's wrestling at the time, the Bella Twins, Alicia Fox, can't think of the other girl's name, Stephanie McMahon. Oh my God. You know, the person who's still there, and I can't think of her right now. I've just blocked out Stephanie McMahon. Sorry.
But yeah, or at that time when the movie's ending, her biggest feud was with AJ Lee, who was trying to do her utmost best on that roster at the time. I sometimes I do kind of wish she wasn't so soured on the business, or at least with WWE right now, because this time frame right now is where she would thrive. And it also sucks for the women before, like the Beth Phoenixes, Mickie James, Jacqueline, Victoria, and everyone else, Lita, Trish, who they really did want to compete this way, but wasn't allowed to. Like, they were literally told, you can't strike anyone.
Right.
Maybe you could do like an open slap or whatever.
So the WWE just didn't recognize that women could compete at the level that, you know, male superstars were. And it's like this core group of of women, you know, have really pushed the WWE women's division into what it is now. And I mean, like, look how far we've come. Like, we really, just in the last year and a half, 2 years, like, we've come so far. Like, I'm not going to get emotional. I promised myself I wouldn't cry, because, like, I can't begin to explain to you guys that as a little girl who watched wrestling when she was 8, and I would go to wrestling shows with my uncle, I was the only girl there. There were no other little girls. And, like, to watch, you know, to go to Raw or to go to SmackDown when it comes to Dallas, to go to events and look around me and see all of the little girls with their, like, you know, their Becky Lynch shirts and their posters for Charlotte. And I'm just like, I was born like 20 years too early. Like, that's how I feel sometimes. Like, we've come so far. Like, women's wrestling is no longer a sideshow. Like, there is a whole generation of little girls who get to turn on the TV and they get to see our own pay-per-view and our own Royal Rumble, and they get to, you know, see our tag team division, which we finally have. And like, I'm done. I'm gonna start crying. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it for this new wave of wrestling, it really is in part thanks to Paige being the quote-unquote anti-diva and getting the fans behind her to push for that hashtag give divas a chance, to where the most popular character in WWE right now is Becky Lynch. Or, I'm sorry, I know she calls herself the man, but it's Becky Lynch, a woman. Actually, I kind of want her story to be next. Total the big story. Like,
dude, I got my Becky Lynch goggles hanging right there. You can see them in my camera, okay? Her original goggles, I have her new ones too.
Nice. But we do kind of owe some thanks to Paige for help getting that second wave of being interested in the women as not just eye candy, to being actual competitors in the ring. And even though they kind of had to gloss over some things, I feel like the movie really did a good job of showcasing the Paige's life. And unfortunately, it had to come to an end, her wrestling career, because of a neck injury. I don't think it's actually stated exactly what is wrong. I am attributing to maybe Edge's injury, to where if you get hit one more time, you could be done.
There's actually a really good, it's like 25 minutes or so. You can Google it, and it's put out by the WWE, and I can't think of it right now. Maybe Cal can link it in the description below. I'll send it to him. But it's on YouTube for free, and it's about Paige's retirement, because she did get injured. She got a neck injury, and then she was gone for a while, and then she came back and she wrestled for like a month. I think it was like a month, and then all of a sudden she was gone again. But there was like some scary moments in the ring, because like I remember watching when she came back, and her and I think it was Sasha Banks were wrestling, and like Sasha hit her in a way that when Paige tried to get up, she like physically couldn't. And I was like, oh my God, this is not scripted. Like, she's actually hurt. And knowing that she had a neck injury, like, I was legitimately afraid. I was like, oh no. And it was at the end of that match, they were like, you need to get checked out. And her doctor said, you know, you're lucky that the way that she hit you, because you are so young and you are so physically fit, you were not paralyzed. And he said, had it been anybody else, you would have been. So you cannot even, there's not even a chance for you to have like a going away match. You need to retire, no fans or buts. And that was it.
But yeah, that's why I didn't know exactly like the day of her injury. That's why I attributed to like Edge, because his was sort of similar, to where I forget what match. I think it might have been his WrestleMania match. And then if it wasn't that SmackDown afterwards, the next week he was saying, I gotta retire because my doctors told me one more hit and I'm either paralyzed or dead.
Mhm.
So again, it's just another reminder that while yes, this is scripted television, this is in fact could be dangerous, which is why you shouldn't be trying it at home, kids.
Yes,
so
disclaimer, wrestling is dangerous. Please don't attempt any of these moves at home.
yes, it's not fake, guys. It's just scripted, but you have to be athletic and in shape to get this to get through this business alive. So we are going to go into our tail end of the show and give our finishers, our high point, our low point, and then our overall grade. So, Nikki, did you want to go?
Yeah,
first?
do we want to bounce back and forth? Like, I'll give my high and you can give your high. Cal can give his high.
We're kind of getting close to press for time, so if you want to just do all three,
Cool.
and then I'll do my three, and Cal can do his.
Fantastic. I can do that. You know what? My high of the movie was when Paige kind of became like the mentor leader person. So like they show her training and stuff like that and how she feels alienated and all of these things with these other girls. And then she goes home. She realizes that perhaps she has misjudged them. And then she like makes friends with everybody and she becomes like this person where instead of being upset that they don't know how to wrestle, she's like, let me show you how to do that. Let's practice more in the ring. I can show you guys how to do this or that. And then like, there's this great moment when one of the girls is pushing the tire and it's like, this was a thing that kept repeating itself. And Paige runs back and Vince Vaughn's like, honk the horn, go home, give up. And Paige is like, if you honk that horn, you know, you're letting him win. And like, she starts like yelling at the girl to do it and that she can get through it and that they're in this together. And I thought that was a really great moment because I was all like, Paige made friends. Like, yeah. So that was fantastic. My low moment in the movie, which I've already talked about, is that I don't like the confrontation between Paige and the other girls because it came off to me as being like really, it came off to me as a man writing a script that doesn't understand women. And I really hate that. Again, I think that that's because the WWE doesn't really have proper representation in the writing room, but what else is new, Hollywood? So yeah, I really hated that part. I didn't feel like we needed to see any more girl/girl rivalry that was toxic that way on screen. Like we're trying to get away from that, and it'd be great if like men could get on board with writing their stories where we're not hair pulling each other and we hate each other and going behind each other's back and stabbing each other in the back. Like at the end of the day, you guys, we can be friends too. And I think that that's why my high was her doing exactly that. That's what the relationship should have been from the get-go, even if you don't get along with somebody. But you know, drama, I get it. My overall grade. So this is my finisher, right? Like the overall grade that I would give this film is probably like a solid A. And that's mainly because, not because like I loved it super much, but because all of my friends, including like my mom and the people who don't like wrestling, they have like come out of the woodwork and been like, oh my God, wrestling is all over my Tumblr page, my Twitter. They'll pop into like some other spaces that I have and they'll be like, hey, has anybody seen Fighting with the Family? And like, I'm so excited that people that aren't excited about wrestling are suddenly excited about it. Like it gives me a whole new applicant pool of people. So I really love it. And that's my 3. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kyle, did you want to give yours?
Sure. Can you guys see me and hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure because I always mute my mic to make sure I don't interrupt. Okay, so for me, my low point would have to be anytime when Paige is blonde, because you know Vessel's not Paige, as we guys all know. She's like the freak or however she likes to call herself, the outcast. So anytime she was blonde, like I didn't enjoy that. Because you know I really like Paige for who she was when she first arrived and stuff like that. And I'm a sucker for accents and all that, and like just her being different from the normal, you know, bottle blonde diva as they were back then. You know, that's what I didn't like. So when she became a bottle blonde, literally in the movie, I didn't enjoy that. High point, like I want to say was, I don't want to say like, I have to say that it was The Rock's scene with the that was the preview where he like cuts a promo for the brother and Paige. But I don't want to take away from it being a Paige movie. But so in that, with respect to that, like the way of Rock cutting a promo would have to be to a scene that Nicole alluded to earlier, is when they were cutting the promos and Vince Vaughn was being a heckler and she came back, snapped back every single time with a response. That would be my high point. So that was kind of like what The Rock would do, you know, but Paige doing it, and that was great to see. So I'm you know. If you guys know anything about watching AfterMat, like I love those charismatic wrestlers that have good personalities and can talk on the mic. That's my thing. Like take a fantastic wrestler like Bland Bryan or Daniel Bryan, as I like to call him. I don't care much for those people. I'm in it for the sports entertainment. I enjoy the wrestling as well. Like I don't get me wrong, there are great wrestlers out there, and I love seeing them. But there's some people who can't really talk on the mic that I don't enjoy. But if you have both, then you're probably at the top of my list for those type of wrestlers. So that was that moment there. Overall grade, like I said, for a movie that I didn't think would do well because people don't really, you know, wrestling is big, but not like movie big kind of thing, unless The Rock's in it, obviously, as you guys know. So like you were saying, the mainstream appeal of bringing The Rock into it would kind of pull some views. But people not knowing who Paige is or was, I think like maybe Nicole's mom didn't know it until Total Divas, I'm assuming, right? So yeah, for her story being that impactful and great and fun to watch, I'd probably give it a B+ or A-. I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic.
For me, for my low, we talked about it earlier, so I'm just gonna just say it. It's just the glossing over of the NXT moments, because that really was the actual to me that was the highlight of her being the marquee for the Divas Revolution. Because even at the end of the film, they said Paige was one of the key members of getting the Divas Revolution underway. But I feel like the movie glossed over that fact of how she really was becoming that person. So that's why I'm giving it a low, because I feel like they didn't really portray that point well of why she would be that that role during the second wave of WWE Women's Stars. High point for me is something that we kind of didn't get to. We kind of glossed over earlier, is the relationship with her and her brother. I thought they did a good job of showcasing the differences between those two, and also the close kinship that they have with each other, and also maybe showing some other up and coming wrestlers that sometimes you're not going to get to the main roster that you keep dreaming about, but you can still contribute to the business in other ways. So I did like that fact. So that was my high point of their relationship and the showcasing that not everyone's making it to the ring, but you can still contribute to the business that you love so much. And I think overall grade is going to be an A-. Again, because they glossed over a big highlight of her life that really is how she got popular with the fans in the first place. But overall, as an overall movie going experience, it was all positive. I loved it from beginning to end, and then being in the audience who were such crossover audience. I really thought that was a big deal for not only for the wrestling business, but maybe for WWE studios in the future, because maybe they might rethink some of their movies that they'll put out in the future. But there you go, guys. That was our sort of recap and our thoughts on the movie Fighting with My Family. Like I said, if you actually didn't get a chance to watch it, but you wanted to get a feel what people were saying about it, I suggest you go see it if it's still in a theater near you. I really think that it is worth it. 1, if you love Paige. 2, if you love wrestling. Or 3, if you really just love a good biopic. And also, again, we earlier in the video we gave you the keyword for the promotion to potentially promote a AfterMat award on screen. So again, if you would like to participate in that, you can go back and watch Fastlane for the first keyword. You can watch this video for the second one, and then the third one will come at our WrestleMania recap, and then put them all together, and then we will let you know later on in that day of how you can enter the contest. And also, I would like to thank my co-host Nikki for joining us tonight on another After Talk. You want to tell people where they can find you?
I would love to. And as always, thank you so much for having me, because I love a place where I can talk about wrestling. You guys can find me on Twitter, on Tumblr, on pretty much any social media at Rhapsody06070607. And I also have a YouTube channel where I discuss style and life lessons and do hair stuff. And you can find that on Rhapsody's vlog. And yeah, I think you can obviously find me here on the Kingslaying Network when we do some after talk. And that's pretty much it. That's where you can find me.
And I also want to thank our wonderful producer, Cal. He's probably one of the hardest working producers that I know. Always trying to help us make us a better podcast each and every episode afterwards. So, Cal, tell them where they can find you on your very busy schedule.
Oh, thank you. Don't forget, you can also find Nicole on her Instagram, where she posts a lot of lovely pictures of her hair. I don't know if you said that. Did you say that?
No, I totally forgot. I did say social media, but yes, if you can follow me on Instagram, I do reviews and everything there. So.
Yeah, sorry. Because I always love watching her like hair videos, or it's like, or pictures of her, like her hair's like up like that. So like it's great to see. And she does her workouts on there too as well. So check that out. As for me, thank you once again to the ladies, Delisha and Nicole, for having me here. I love talking wrestling, as you guys know, and it was a great idea Delisha had to, talk more outside the ropes kind of thing, beyond the mat, like I said at the beginning. It's great to see not just the recap of pay-per-views and a lot of the great feedback from you guys in the chat as well. I just want to quickly bring up, some people said that they haven't seen the movie and they want to go see it now, but they also want to grade Paige's career. I said, how'd you grade Paige's career? A lot of them gave it a solid B as well. So that's great to hear that they're fans of Paige and stuff like that. And it's unfortunate how it ended. But thank you guys again for having me. You can always find me here on the Kingslayer Network and over on Twitter at KingslayerNet. And I guess you can let them know the next time they'll see us, Delisha.
Next time you see us will be April 8th, as we recap WrestleMania, the longest pay-per-view of the year. So this will probably be the longest AfterMat of the year. But it's one of my favorite times of the year, WrestleMania, even though sometimes we don't get what we want. But it's always an entertaining show, especially when you're watching it with other people who may or may not be wrestling fans. So you can catch us on AfterMat recapping that. So hope to see some of you guys there. And then you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Delisha Renee. I don't do hair tutorials as great as Nikki, but I cook a lot. So you can go there for all the food porn. And Nikki brings the hair, I'll bring the food. But thank you guys for joining us for After Talk tonight. Just keep up to KingslayerNet or my Twitter, and we'll let you know when the next one is. We might have some ideas in the works, but it'll probably be maybe post WrestleMania. And we'll let you guys know where we're talking about that. But again, go watch our Fastlane recap. Watch this review video as well for those keywords in order to get the total phrase for the chance to promote on the AfterMat Awards, which is always a fun time. We may get dressed up. You never know. So come join us. But again, thank you from me, from Nikki, from Cal, and we'll see you next time.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on.